Yo, what's up, world? This is Dane Tomas, and you're listening to the Dane Tomas podcast. Every week, I talk to experts, weirdos, new friends, and old ones about everything from magic to business to creativity and human awakening. So, strap yourself in, lay back and relax, cause we're heading straight for the black hole. Special edition, Miss Mor. Welcome to the Dane Tomas podcast.
What?
Hi.
Hi. How nervous are you?
I'm nervous about what you might say.
What I might
to
say.
some of the what do you call it? Like the more deeper questions. Yeah, but I also feel pretty good.
What don't you want your followers to find out about you?
All my hang-ups and shit, you know, all my failings as a husband.
Let's go straight into that.
Let's go straight into that.
What do you think are your failings as a husband?
I don't think that's a good question to start with. Let's not go there. I just want to frame this up a bit.
Sure.
We have put out to our respective social media channels the opportunity for people to ask us some questions. We've been more and more talking about authentic relating, open relating, purpose-oriented relating, the approach to marriage that we have, all that kind of stuff. You've been, let's be frank, hassling me for a little while. When are we going to do the podcast? I'm like, I don't know. Soon.
People want to know.
People want to know.
I just have an instinctual calling and hearing that people do actually care and they want to know things. And I've been following a few people who do post about their struggles and stuff, and it's damn interesting.
Cool. Do you know,
I think we can all relate.
I just clock what it is. I'm very loath to position myself as a relationship expert when I feel like a relationship student. Do you know what I mean?
I don't consider it an expertise mastery kind of field. I feel like it's almost like we're astronauts in a field that doesn't have a lot of people excavating this realm of space.
I like it. Okay, now I can do it.
Okay.
We're
just sharing our
expert,
cosmonautical experience.
Have some experiences.
No map relating.
Wicked. So do we want to just get straight into these questions?
Sure.
So what I was thinking is, for those listening who can't see the video, we have filled a bowl of questions that people have asked us on social media. And what I was thinking is we'll take turns and we'll ask the other person and the other person can answer.
Great.
And unless it's a special, like asking you both kind of one, we'll just answer it once so it's not. But if the person wants to riff, they can riff, you know, if you've got something to add,
I happen to know that we've got some separate opinions about things, so it might be interesting to get some perspectives on that as well.
Okay. How about I start?
Sure.
Okay. Question numero 1. Oh, this is the one that made me laugh. How do you navigate the difference in wealth?
That sounds great. I guess as a backdrop to that, I'm pretty aware of what Mr. Tomas makes and earns and has in his investments and stuff because he talks about it quite a lot.
All the time.
One of the early things that was charming me was you presenting your portfolio and your 10-year plan of finances to me, like literally sending the finance list of every year trajectory.
This is my 10-year plan.
Up until, I don't know, 48 or something, where you become a millionaire.
48. Ugh, how unambitious that was.
I don't know. So far, smashing it. Definitely. And I know that mine's about 1/10 of what your value is in the world.
Not my value, just my finances.
Your financial worth. Especially with Bitcoin going up and whatnot. It's adding stuff to the pot. And I guess I've got an inner sense of worth and value that's just always been with me of, like, I know where I come from. I know that I can make money when I need to. I don't need to depend on anyone in this point in life. So it's not like it matters as a factor. And the way I've seen you dismantle the complexities of economy and money actually really inspire me to just look at it as another game. Like, okay, that's your field of expertise. Like, that's kind of like you've got your PhD in doing that stuff, or that's what you're investing your energy into. And obviously, like, I've never felt stinginess from you or an attitude of not sharing and not, like, you know, passing on the resources, which is also like, oh, it's just not an issue. And it's inspiring me to try and play the game in my own ways, but I've got different value systems around it. Or
Totally.
Yeah, like my worth and my wealth is not necessarily monetary. I feel like it's land, like it is my heritage of where I feel like I need to be a guardian of a land at some point in my life. And that's a huge, not necessarily an asset, but like it's a huge responsibility. So I know that I'm sitting on a sort of a mine of responsibility and wealth, but it's it's a long-term kind of wealth that the world potentially is learning and awakening to realize how precious actual like native forest is in any country, how precious water resources are in different places.
So what I'm translating is that it's never been an issue for you because you kind of already handle yourself as rich.
Yeah.
You know, like one of my reads, I was like, no matter where I would get to, this woman would be capable of coming there with me. It's not like I could get him, you know, fictional scenario, get invited to Elon Musk's house for dinner. You know, you'd be as competent in that environment as me, if not more so. You know?
I'd be expected to get invited.
Totally, yeah. It's funny for me because I read the question, I was like, I never really even thought of that as a thing, you know?
I think it's a big thing, and like especially around marriage, like you're expected to just like share and pool all your finances, and that whole concept both of our parents said of like make sure you get a prenup. Get a prenup.
We did an energetic prenup. We didn't do a prenup. We did it like, I don't want your shit. I don't want your shit. I'm not going to steal your forest. I'm not going to steal your bitcoins.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. I trust that. Yeah, I didn't want to say much other than to say like what I've noticed is, you know, there's that period of people like, you pay rent? I thought Dane would just pay for everything. And I'm like, super
disrespectful to me. It's like, like I would be dependent on someone else. Like my worst nightmare is to be in a hierarchical relationship with you.
Yeah, I don't think we really do that. I think for me also there's an expectation or there's an energetic field of, if someone wants to have more of that, they'll just level up, which I have seen in your reality in the time we've been together is like, part of you going, you can just make money? Okay, well, I'll make some money then. You know, it's like this different...
I've been making money before you came along.
I know, but I have noticed a certain entrepreneurial upgrading in the time we've been together. Is that fair?
Sure.
Miss Moore will neither confirm nor deny. She is making more money now. It's just what happens. It's what we do when we might not be pooling our dollars in the bank exactly, even though we do share and support each other. It's more like we share the fields of mastery.
Yeah,
so and I feel like raise each other in your ability, you know.
And I feel like we really cultivate a field of wealth. Like I've seen many people coming into your field get richer. Just by your attitudinal impact upon their lives.
Yes.
And that's just like
we're all
something we can
that.
Share. But I didn't come from a lack, and
no, it's not really in your vibe.
No, like I already went to all around the world to places that I never thought I would have. Without having all of that stuff. So it's not like I need to climb a ladder to get somewhere. It's more, the question for me is, where do I want to go?
So here's what I'm hearing. There's a difference in dollars in bank accounts, but there's not a big difference in self-worth energy between us.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe useful to note for people. All right. Hit me.
My turn. How do you deal... it's similar to that, but how do you deal with differences?
Oh, I like this one.
What other differences do we have?
You know, when we first met, a really big difference was this kind of almost like capitalist versus activist kind of mentality, you know? I was like, oh shit, I think this chick's like an activist, you know? I think she's like more interested in equality than success, you know, more interested in, but I think for me, well, one, the differences, I'm sure there's a question about polarity in here somewhere. The differences are a source of polarity. Like if you have two people who are exactly the same, then there's nothing to really spark on.
Yeah.
There's no growth. There's no dynamic, because it's like, cool, we agree on everything. It's like, well, why do we even need the two of us then? You might as well have one person, you know? Yeah. But also what I feel with us, or at least I'll name my side of it, is I don't have a strong need for you or for someone else who's close with me to agree with me on everything. Like that's not really the basis for like, we can be together as long as you agree about everything and we do all the same things. And so like, you know, you go and do your stuff and then we go out to dance or you do whatever, or the other week you're like, cool, I think I might want to go and study in Finland. I'm like, oh, cool. And I can feel where someone else will be like, what? You want to do what? But that doesn't fit with my plan. And it's like, and I think this will flow into a lot of other areas that we're going to talk about, is like, we're not mostly trying to control each other very much.
No.
That's a key part of the deal, is like, definitely. It's two people who value independence and two people who value freedom and want to be secure and safe and share a lot of things, but the liberty to be yourself, at least for me, is one of the big gifts of this arrangement. And so therefore I would not want to take that away from the other, of like, oh, you like that? Well, that's fucking weird, you know, like it just, mostly I see it as a benefit, I guess. And so it's never really occurred to me to need to even overcome the problem of differences. That, well, differences is part of the deal. Yeah. And I guess also the other side is that there is at least enough similarities. There's a mixture of similarities and differences. So there's enough values that we do share, and
we do get into heated debates, and
no, we don't.
And I have noticed that if there's somehow fundamentally against your view, or if you get like personally don't feel supported as a human, then it escalates into a bad place. It's like, there's an interesting edge that I find in our debates where, yes, we can disagree, but if I'm not on your side... If you're not
on my side, that's a different issue. It's not about difference of opinion.
There's been some restaurant fights that started from that point. I just want to like bring that into the foreground.
When you took the waiter's side, when I was rude to the waiter who was being a jerk.
Yeah, I was on the waiter's side. Like,
and I was like, what?
He's earning minimum wage.
What does this mean for our relationship if you'll just side with some random stranger? Like, how can I trust you to have my back? We haven't had one of those in a long time. Those early days stuff. Yeah.
But I think that comes from that place of like, oh, our value systems actually colliding and being quite different. And then we developing more and more intelligence on how to actually have a conversation around different value systems whilst maintaining a status quo, living in a beautiful house.
Do you know what is dropping in for me that has improved since those early days of those kind of things is, I think you can handle as much difference as your nervous system stability will support you. And so what I think we've done over time is invest in nervous system ease has become one of our principles.
Yeah.
And for me, if I've got nervous system ease, well, of course I can allow you to have a different viewpoint and be comfortable and let go of my need to control someone else's mind. But if I'm feeling unsafe and you express a different view to me, it's like, well, fuck, what am I going to rest on? If you don't even agree with me on that, well, then I'm really unsafe. And so I think, which will come in, you know, I know there's some open relating-ish questions in there somewhere. I think the base for me has been nervous system ease has improved over time. So therefore there's a greater tolerance for changes, disagreements, difference of opinion, difference of direction. It's like, oh yeah, but I'm safe, right? And if something ever does flare up and it seems unsolvable, it usually can be followed down to like, okay, some really young part is super unsafe right now, and he's not happy to hear that you don't agree with him on whatever, but it's nothing to do with your opinion. It's to do with like, I'm alone in the world, you know, that's been activated.
And I think we're two people who really like debating and opinions and, you know, spend time online and offline making and forming ideas and thoughts and beliefs and unpacking them, and, you know, having a lively conversation is actually one of the best things I like about us.
So it's not seen as a problem for someone to bring a different viewpoint.
No, like I love our differences.
We love our differences. That's our current statement. I'm sure we'll have an argument later and I'll be like, fuck.
I wish you believed in me.
Oh, this one's an edgy one. How do you know whether to stay or go? I'm asking you that, I guess.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like I was unpacking some of the trades that we've grown in the car on my way home. And one of the traits for me and myself to measure is how often do I get an escapist tendency. And like, I think you remember, but like in the beginning I was like, oh, I can't even trust, like my nervous system doesn't trust that you'll be here tomorrow. Like I just don't have long-term vision for any sort of partnership or couplehood. And that used to be my reality of like living really present moment based in any relationship that I'm in, because I might be gone tomorrow. Like, who do I know? Maybe I'll leave, maybe they'll leave, maybe something else will happen. But yeah, like I think it's only in the last, say, year or whatever we've spent in this country, so almost like the borders locked down, forcing me to stay. But at the same time, as we did our marriage, it was a big commitment to staying grounded and staying in one place and staying in the thick of it. And it's actually dropped my nervous system down as well, of like, oh, there's actually more space to build from that place. So my first instinct whenever I get a urge to leave is probably that my nervous system's triggered.
Yeah.
It's not like it's actually being objective truth of the situation.
So how do you know whether you stay or go?
You said something really beautiful the other day around like you should make like new vows. It's not death to you part in our religious understanding. It's until our karmic paths complete, until, you know, we don't like each other anymore, we like commonly mutually agree on that, or
we've blended into just pure friendship,
or
we mutually agree there's no further growth to be had, or something along those lines.
Or you become the president of a country that I don't want to move to.
Okay, keep your eyes out for that one, people. America. He's like, Uruguay, awesome. Not America though.
No, not an English speaking country.
Yeah, I think the stay or go thing, I'll just add a little onto that. For me, I guess, why am I in a relationship? It's mostly for growth. And I guess this one particularly is as the stage of life I'm in, and what seems to be working is this balance of like stability and growth, like that we can have something that we come back to together, that we share, that is a base that we can leapfrog off to different adventures or different whatevers, but we've got this shared thing of like, oh, we're holding a shared reality together. And I think for me, either it would have to become, okay, that shared reality is no longer up to the task, you know, it's no longer the place I want to come home to, or I feel like the lessons are complete. They will be the main reasons for us, but to just expand it through this would be true for us too, but I'll expand it to my whole relationship experience. If I came to the conclusion that there are some fundamental mismatches in the partnership that are not serving long term, like, you know, there's something about this person that triggers basically an experience of unsafety, or this trait in this person is something that I cannot accept and I don't think it's going to change. Or, you know, if I clocked, which I'm not, you know, I feel like we're deep enough in that we've got a good sense of each other, it will be more the other journey of, I feel complete now, or it's been a great 8 years, but you know. Yeah. But I think the other out that I would have advice for others is, if you're into something and you clock part way through, there's a deal breaker here. This is not a match. You know, this is not the energy I want to long term with.
For example, children.
Yeah, like one wants and one passionately wants, one passionately doesn't, and there's no in between.
Yeah.
That could be a deal breaker. Or, for me, like, coming to this conclusion of, for me to kind of long-term build a base with someone, I need to be able to relax with that someone. And there's been, you know, numerous people in my history where it's like the attraction wasn't based on that. It was based on like an excitement that plugged into certain wounds where it's like, it's never going to be a happy home. It's going to be a sometimes exciting, sometimes very stressful home, but that eventually is like, this is not the criteria for me to rest in.
Yeah. It's the drama-based relating. That's something I want to say on that. Yeah, like I feel like we're still inherently like we're going to be friends no matter what. And I've got that reference point from like most of my relationships have actually ended really peacefully. So I don't think there's going to be this like huge eruption and like, you know, divorce wars and, you know, things. Like I feel like we're both in a mature level enough emotionally
that you would sense a natural
to be
completion.
able to exactly, just like go through that as a rite of passage as much as we've stepped into it.
I believe the same thing.
Right. Yes. What are your top tips of marriage and open relating?
Top tips of marriage and open relating. These are the ones that I want to avoid, but I also have opinions. I do have opinions. You know, I think that the top tip is there's no fucking rules, man. Like that, you know, we got married and I felt really good about it. And then there was a few months later, it was this kind of crystallizing of sort of feeling a bit trapped. And we kind of unpacked it a bit. And it was like, I'm buying into some constructs that are in the collective view of marriage that aren't actually in any of what you or I would put into the, you know, like marriage is a contract. It's like some, you know, blockchain smart contract or whatever, you know. There's the contract that we've made, and then there's the leftover threads of other contracts that are, you know, like what I saw in my parents or my grandparents or what the television tells you or whatever. And it's like, I remember just having this release in my body of like, there's no rules. Like there's no fixed code of what you have to do within this agreement. You can design and evolve the agreement to both of your needs as you grow and evolve. And that for me is like, And so I think knowing that is a really good starting point where, you know, and you can load into that whatever, you know, relationship theories or experiences turn you on, like, attachment theory is a bit useful, or John Gottman's kind of stuff is, or whatever, like those things are useful, but they're not rules. Like they're only good to the extent that they, like the love languages, right? Like we use that and it has helped us bridge differences. And so that is a working model that we find some currency in, you know, but there might be others and it's like, you know, like some of the David Data stuff and you're like, nah. I'm like, okay, this one it might be useful inside of me, but it's not, wouldn't be one of the core pillars of our relating dynamics, you know, but love languages would. And so I think, but inside that container of, you know, it's what you want it to be. I think that's the biggest primary principle for me that has allowed us to be having a quote unquote more conscious marriage.
And I think to that question, it's almost like it is what you want it to be. If the purpose of your marriage is ... then like that's what you'll get from the world. If you want to have heaps of experiences, go and have orgies, or like have a sex mansion,
then that can be the marriage.
Then that can be arranged, but you need to align with someone who wants that as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're in this constant inquiry of like, okay, what do we want? And actually relationship as a basis of support where we can like create other things in the world or give ourselves into the world has been huge.
Yeah. I guess it's like for me, what has become clear is that one of the underlying foundations is like an allyship that is deeper and more stable than, oh, we're having heaps of sex. Oh, we're not having heaps of sex. Oh, we're wanting to hang out in the same place and do the same things. Oh, we're not. You want to go over here, I want to go over there. It's like, yeah, but that's my ally who's gone off on their own mission for the week. That's cool because I know we're on the big picture on the same team. And so I think that's, finding out what is the common threads of what you want to share, I think is really big.
Yeah. I mean, like in any relationship, basically, I'm looking for the why of that relationship. Like, why is this happening? What's the gift that we're sharing or can give to each other? And in particular with us, I feel like for the first time I've clocked in like, oh, we can just like be in the same team. Like, we don't have to be in like polarity opposition of each other and like try to own or depend or do any of that stuff. We're actually, it felt like we met in a place of alignment and allegiance of like, oh, you want to do something in the world, I want to do something in the world, and now we're in this like creative pursuit thing of like, oh, you want to do an album, well, I want to do an album. It's miraculous to me how that keeps kind of like,
we're in the same
we're still
phase
doing the same
somehow.
thing. We're still like growing our artistry and actually enjoying the fruits of that
before
together.
It was like, temple culture, yes, that's everything. I think it's everything. You know, it's like the chapters are aligning. Yeah, I think there's something about shedding the illusions, you know, like there's a lot of stuff around marriage and partnership of like, okay, now I've got this person, they're now going to give me this. And every time I have one of those running, it creates a problem. Because it's like, well, why aren't they giving me this? And it's like, where did you get the information that this other person is going to make you happy or complete or safe or fulfill your sex needs or agree with you on everything or whatever
financially provide for me.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, you know, I can imagine these conscious, aware marriage vows and the priest would be there. It's like, and remember, you don't owe each other anything. Like that'd be the last one. And it's like, oh my God, I feel so free. I love you.
Yeah.
You know? Now remember, you are bound together and you are completely free. Yeah. You'd be like, oh, that sounds good. Versus like, if they get sick, you're going to get sick. Or it's like, you know, it's sickness and health and have, and like, I get where some of that stuff is coming from.
I don't have that conditioning.
Yeah. So I think dropping your assumptions is big and continuing to drop them. And, you know, we've had a few things where like we let the relationship construct die. Yeah. And then the relating inside of that is fresh within the next minute. But it's like, okay, I just need to like, I'm not really wanting to be here right now or enjoy it. It's like, cool, I release you. It's like, oh, I'm free. Cool. So I would like to hang out with you and have sex with you and be your friend and do cool stuff. Because the contract expired. Yeah,
as soon as the duty creeps in, it's causing something to happen. Like as soon as we take on the roles or the archetypes of husband and wife, we had this recently.
Who's bound? It's like bound to the house. It's like a Viking word for like is bound to the house. I'm like, oh, I'm bound to the house now. I got to raise cattle and shit. Like that's,
I like that. Maybe I will get some cattle for you to raise.
Right. Am I asking you this next question?
Yeah, you are.
I don't want that one. I want this one. Oh. This is from Priyanka. How did you meet? And what about each other caught your eye?
Oh.
Romantic.
We met in a very tumultuous time in my life, at least. At a party. And I don't know. I feel like, I saw you freestyling on some rap. but I wasn't like necessarily mesmerized. But then we had this encounter, and I think actually what like stuck with me for a lot has been this phrase, like we were like just talking about our lives and like getting to know each other. It was like the first proper conversation we ever had. And you were like, oh, we could probably do relating really well. Like I can sense the potential of having a relationship here. Something like no one blurts out on a first date.
And
like
you're like,
no one would
I just
say
need you
that.
to know that I could leave to Africa or Brazil tomorrow. And, like, oh.
Which I did 3 months later.
You did.
But yeah, there was just something about like almost like that openness and that honesty of like, oh, like we could get along really well. Like I don't know what it was based on, and I don't like, you don't have any recollection of even saying that, but it made an impression.
I guess this is the question that we both answer.
Yeah.
I thought Mia was really hot and a little bit mysterious, and that was about it. Because with that party, we didn't really hang. We just kind of brushed into each other's world, and then I saw her offering tantric type sessions, and I was like, oh, I bet that'll be an interesting experience, and it was, and that kind of opened a portal. And then we kind of super non-attached kind of dated a little bit, and I was in very avoidant, aloof, Playboy-esque periods. So I was very clear of not wanting to get involved with anyone. And here was this world-traveling mystic chick. I was like, I definitely won't get involved with her because she's all,
she's so safe.
Here today, gone tomorrow. So there was a safety almost of this person is definitely not going to try to lock me down into something, which was relaxing for me. And so then with zero expectation, things just progressed. And I feel like what I noticed over multiple meetings is that the energy of the heart was really present. Like sex could come in, or spiritual mystical stuff could come in, or an interesting conversation could come in, but they would kind of come and go. But I wasn't analyzing like this, but looking over those first few, 5-10 interactions, I was like, oh, the heart is a frequency it's readily available here, And I remember like not really trusting you because I was like, I don't really understand her emotional self. I don't really know how this person's emotions work.
Yeah.
But I can feel the heart, and it was kind of like this, kind of going through the layers of like, we meet here. I don't know if we meet here. We definitely meet here. In fact, we always seem to have. So I think for me, it was like, initial man blueprint. Really, this one's hot. That's always, human factor of hotness.
Benefit.
But then it was like, oh, I feel like there is a frequency of love that is here that is fairly stable. And that kind of crept through our interactions.
Another point that I was, because like it's interesting, I'm like, oh, like no one's ever wanted to like actually have a relationship with me that much. A lot of people fall in love with me. A lot of people like, find me attractive, and actually like heart is probably where I meet most people, even strangers. Like there's a lot of people in my clients that like fall in love with me, or like that's something that I'm trying to gauge all the time in my previous incarnations. And when you came to Berlin, like I left and I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, I'm just gonna go back into living my cosmopolitan life. And you came to visit, and I was like, no one's ever come to my world. Like I've always been a part of different people's worlds, their cosmos. No one's actually come and visited me in my cosmos, or like, overlapsed and like traveled to a parallel dimension where I also exist, but have a completely different, friend base, lover base, all of those things. And I feel like as you were doing that, it was almost like, oh, this person wants to get know me at a deeper level.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened a lot. That's really been rare in my life. Yeah. In like, expose, if you didn't know, I've been traveling for 10 years of my life. So I've just assumed lovers.
Traveling.
Ladies come, ladies go.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you decide to get married?
Oh, that's a good one. And actually, the original question was, why did you still decide to get married? You know, and that was
You're already relating.
That was an interesting, but I also think this is my interpretation. This may not be what they meant, but it was like, why did you still decide to get married? Like in this day and age, and with given your views, this is my reading into given your other views.
Totally.
Why did you still decide to get married? Because
marriage.
And both of us. No, did you ask me? Yeah, you asked me. Cool. Both of us would probably be pretty anti-marriage seeming people over the last decade or so. Is that fair? Like
That's
I was like, I would never fucking get married. You
Oh,
know?
can't lock me down in one country, let alone one person.
One person, barely even on one planet.
Definitely one of those polygamous type tribes.
But I guess, it came out on this drunken excursion where Mia rescued me when I was living at Haydn Mystery School, and on the weekend I went to the pub in the early morning and stayed there all day and got super, super, super drunk as a way to process my unprocessed emotions. And Mia came and rescued me from the tavern in the early evening where I'd been all day and drunken 10 or 12 pints of very strong boutique ale. And in the van or the car on the way home, I was like, we should get married. And as drunk as I was, it was an expression of something that was honest, it was and we brought it up a few days later or whatever. You were kind of teasing me. So did you mean what you said? And I was like, yeah, actually. And that was that. It was just a seed, but it was like, I guess for me, it was based on a sense of there's something else here. And it's something that could potentially evolve through many manifestations, So I guess what that thing means from my end, I'm sure you can have riff some different stuff on this, but from my end is like, it's almost just the energy of commitment itself, of making, especially we were playing at that time as well, in quite an open, relating, polyamorous play, anything can happen, anyone can go anywhere kind of world. It was almost a way of like defining, like if I'm loving multiple people, but I'm choosing to commit and invest in something longer term than that with this person, and that's some part of it. We decided officially to get married last year, just as the COVID thing was really kicking off in Australia. And it was like, for me, there's this impulse of like, fuck, like you're technically still a tourist. What if the Australian government sent you home? That would be fucked. Everything's just so working out so good. We've got our nice little house and our friends and our place in the world. And so for me, it was a way of defending and honoring and anchoring onto the material plane of like, this pairing is a real thing, it's tangible, it's long term. And also, I guess the still get married thing, there was a sense for me that even though I didn't agree with the traditional construct of marriage, particularly the kind of enforced monogamous part or the treating of humans like a legal thing, or the the Christian connotations of this is in the eyes of God, or any of that shit I didn't really agree with. I just had the sense of like, it would mean whatever we mean it to mean. And the bond, they're like, okay, we have a bond that is something I want to invest in and commit to long term. That part vibrated through stronger than my fears around, you'll be locked in the thing and you'll be nagging at each other 30 years from now and you could be this to that. And it's like that, none of that really, basically what I realized is a lot of the shit I had around a marriage was fear. They were fears and dogmas about what it would be if it was like my parents' marriage or my grandparents' marriage or a television marriage or a Christian dogma marriage. And it was like, we don't have to do it like that. So that's why.
I feel like it was super unromantic besides that obvious first impulse proposal.
That was romantic.
And also I just remember how we used to refer to our like stints of togetherness when we were still traveling as like seasons, or like first marriage, second marriage,
season 1, season 2,
season 2, season 3, until
Dane and Mia have made it to season 4. Who knows what will happen in
the
Bali.
show's getting renewed.
Yeah, totally.
But then, yeah, COVID happened, and indeed, as a world traveling cosmopolitan, my options of escape also became options of like, oh, I might, my parents asked me to come back, basically. And I was like, no, not like imprisoning myself into some culture that I do not have such a belonging to anymore. Plus, we've got a thing,
Kind
like
of got a thing
we
going on.
just got
just a small
settled.
thing going on here.
Yeah, we just got settled with like, yeah, all the basics. But for me, that shift, because for me the fear was in being dictated towards by society of where I can and cannot stay and who I can and cannot be with, based on nationalities and bound borders and freaking diseases. And the act of actually deciding to do marriage, because that was the most legally like solid, viable thing that would actually allow us to visit each other no matter what, like whether it's crossing countries or prisons or whatever. That kind of gives you a green card of access to each other.
Well, so this is a real couple in the eyes of state bodies and
the eyes of God, you know?
the eyes of God. It's really
literally.
It's
Like,
almost
it gave
like,
me freedom instead of restriction.
yeah, well, that's it, huh? That's the thing.
So
That's
like
a
that was
beautiful
like,
definition.
oh, my, like we getting married is my freedom to like be here and to create more and to like say yes to more expansion, to more growth, to more just continuing on a bigger path. Whereas, yeah.
That's a lot of questions. I don't think we're going to get all these questions.
No, just pick some.
Okay.
We also talk a lot.
That's when you know someone's your wife. They're just going to straight tell you that you talk a lot. How has marriage changed you?
It was interesting because I feel like I'm going to give short answers. I feel like we had that fear of commitment right before. It was like definitely not something we considered until it was like, oh, I think we need to consider this. And then as we did it, I felt more free again. It was like, oh, the commitment fear dropped entirely and a new phase almost opened up of like, okay, we're in this boat together now. And we can captain it ourselves and decide where it goes. But also I noticed there was way more open relating happening from that point.
I'll just say ditto. I feel like I increased my ability to commit. I've got a commitment upgrade.
What's the greatest challenge of open relating?
The greatest challenge of open relating is finding people to date that aren't intimidated by your hot Finnish wife. Ha ha ha!
Needed to jab that in there.
Needed to get that in there. I think it is actually navigating other people's perceptions of marriage.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'll say we've done a fair bit of work on the nervous system trauma freak out stuff. So that might not have been the first problem if we were just starting.
True.
And that's not that problem is forever solved.
Yeah.
But for both of us now, it's the communication around, and so I'm married. My wife is at home. She knows that I'm hanging out with you right now. If this is to progress, it'd be really great for us to kind of connect and you to meet her. But also getting clear, but I'm a free being doing this of my own will and I can do it. I can do what I want, but I consider the feelings and opinions of this person who's kind of invested.
And I sense there's like a cognitive dissonance. There's like a paradox within that of like, I'm married and I'm free. And that's just like jabbing people. It's still like unconceivable somehow, which is, I guess, why we're doing this and why I want us to do this is actually, no, I feel more free because you're supporting me in life and I feel your heart like constantly and I can share with you about all my other freakish relationship ups and downs.
That guy's not getting back to you? What a loser. Fuck him.
Yeah, I think they're just intimidated by marriage.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's been the biggest thing and the most success I've had is dating other married people.
I'm also investigating this possibility.
I think we should start a dating app for married people alone. That's yours.
Okay. Oh, they're all flowing in a good order. How do you navigate jealousy? Beautiful question.
It's had its ups and downs. I feel like if I'm in a good place with myself and if I've got my own life flowing, then it's easier to give you the same amount of freedom and the same amount of like, just like, great, I support you. If I feel not resourced, if I feel depleted in some form, energetically or emotionally, it's way harder. And I feel like it almost like, it's not necessarily about any person that you're relating with. It's always about me not feeling safe in literally the security of house and livelihood and like nest.
Yeah.
I feel like that's my biggest trigger of jealousy. So trying to like create a safe space is my go-to first reaction to my own trigger.
Nice.
Which sometimes leads me to try and look for flights to Finland.
The avoidance response to jealousy. I'm leaving this country.
No, it's literally like I've had it before. I've had it not related to any relationship, but like if I don't feel safe in the world, I want to go back to the woods. I'm going back to the woods. Like this is my like ultimate wound, core wound, childhood stuff.
It's a lot of root chakra action.
It's like I feel safe in the woods. The woods is not gonna evacuate. Like, you know, like it doesn't belong to anyone as a land. Like my forest or a national park is where I need to go to feel like I have permission to exist. And this is really like core, base chakra,
childhood,
trauma,
safety.
Safety stuff, like we all have that and we have it in a different way, but just wanted to voice it publicly. It's not necessarily about you. It's not necessarily about you.
Or
you. It's not, I don't feel safe to exist.
I think one of the steps for me that has got me better at it, which is not, you know, it's a funny one to be like, I'm so good at it. It's like, because I don't think that I necessarily am, and I don't think a lot of people that open relate are impervious to it. But I think one of the first things that has improved for me is actually acknowledging and letting myself feel it. Because before it was like, yeah, I'm spiritual, I don't have that. I'm conscious, so I'm not going to even have those feelings. And we were super cool, playing it cool. And then when I hit my first bumps, I'm like, fuck, you did what? Fuck him, fuck. And I'm like, no, but I don't want to feel this because I'm better than this. We've agreed to do something different, you know? And it's like, actually, what I would advise that version of me now, like a couple years back and all the versions in between up until right now, is like, cool, so go into it, feel all the stuff, breathe, make sound, do the things, and let it be what it is, and then you can let it be revealed, and then it can move through. And often it's like, it gets clearer. Like for me, it's like if there's, essentially if I don't feel special, if I don't feel important, is one of the key triggers for it. And since I've got really clear on that, it's become less of a complex beast, which doesn't mean I'm permanently bulletproof to jealousy, but knowing that like, the way this thing happened made me feel like I wasn't important, and then this thing kicks off. Yeah. Versus like many times, you know, there's some you're with someone and I'm like, it's pretty cool. My brain's like, you serious? Why are we not like furious? It's like, because no part of me feels like it's losing anything right now. And to reconcile there's two halves of this one where you're going crazy and nothing's really happened, and the other one where I feel really at peace and even celebratory, or like, you know, I'm going to walk past quietly because I think they might be having sex and I don't want to bother them. I'm like, who are you? That's weird. And it's like,
I'm so impressed by your ability to handle jealousy.
You know, I want to always frame it with a touch wood. It's like right now, that's not a problem. But knowing it, people realistically knowing, but tomorrow, different circumstance, you guys coming to a party together that I'm at, it's now all of a sudden a completely different thing, which may or may not be a problem. But I think the start is just allowing it to be another emotion that is there. And, you know, it's the flip side of desire and polarity-based desire, which is a whole other fucking subject. But Yeah.
Cool. I guess we've kind of dealt with that, actually. Let me see if we have a better one. How do you navigate lovership versus primary partnership? Does that mean lovers as us, or does that mean other lovers?
I think we're the primary partnership and loverships are the other things.
Right, okay. So it's kind of related to that.
Yeah, do you have anything to say on that one?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. I do think I'm not big on, at this stage, being about that many rules and agreements, and I see some posts about doesn't matter what agreements you set and whatever. I think it does. I think communication is the key tool for all of this.
Sure.
And I think what I'm getting better at is informing all parties involved about my intentions or my hopes or my fears, and keeping that up to date is the biggest thing, you know. Yeah, I'll leave that there. But communicating where all the potential charges are and what might happen and that stuff to the best of the ability, I think, is a big part.
Oh, I feel like you've been exceptional at communicating stuff around that. Like, I remember some of the early conversations was a lot about who are we attracted to? Like, what's the potential there? Like, what could that evolve into? And like almost like unpacking different scenarios before they happen was actually creating a huge sense of safety, of like shared intimacy. And like, okay, cool, like that's going to be a challenge to navigate. And now like witnessing that and, you know, trying my best to have an understanding and compassion to like, okay, there is some things that we're retrieving from each person that we're interacting with. And like Eros to me is like all the things. It's creativity, it's life force, it's like whatever you put it into. So I'm trying to be less attached to like a sexual connection as a baseline for relating, and more in living with the freedom to actually be allowed to explore what it is. And if I know what it is, then it's like it's easier to create safety and situations where that can also like be in its full manifestation.
Nice.
So it's also, like unpacking the attractions.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Is this me?
These are the last questions. I think they're kind of similar.
How do you navigate feeling in different levels of healing or transformation?
So how do you navigate being in different levels? I think is...
But I think it's kind of about trigger and trauma and stuff as well, isn't it? Implied. There's something about like...
I know there is, and yet I feel like for me it's been interesting because I feel like we've both gone through a bit of depression cycle in different order. Like the other person's been super down and the other person's been like, well, what the fuck? Like, what does this mean? Like,
is it about me?
Is it about me?
Is it
Why
over?
don't you want to have sex with me? Blah, blah, blah. And like, it's happened both sides. And it's almost like understanding that it's nothing to do with me necessarily. And really finding sympathy to let that unfold, which is something only long-term couples, I think, have.
Yeah.
Is the understanding like, oh, this person's going through massive cycle of transformation that isn't anything to do with my cycle of transformation. Like we could be in spring and autumn at the same time.
Totally.
Psychologically, which I also think I have because I'm more of like northern hemisphere.
You're on a different
brain
season clock.
Still. So yeah, I don't know. It just brings me some understanding on that.
Well, yeah, I think it comes back to that difference question in a way. It's like just letting people be where they're at is really a big practice, and realizing that a lot of the work is being able to hold just one way or another, whether we're talking jealousy, whether we're talking how come she's into this politics and I'm into this politics or whatever. A lot of it comes back to being able to hold myself and not necessarily trying to get into your head and solve your problems, or not projecting that if you're not happy, I'm failing, or any of that stuff. And so I think this whole thing around difference, different levels, different interests, different whatever, it's like, well, you know, I think it comes down to this basic balance. Is a very Easter piece, you know, of like sovereignty and synergy. And it's like that sovereignty piece of like, I've basically got myself. Like, I would be sad if we end it. I would be, you know, have a lot of grief and mourning and whatever. But I know that ultimately I've got my path in life, and I'm gonna do my life one way or the other, and it's okay. And I think that on the micro, I was like, oh, you're gonna go and do that other thing that is not what we were gonna do. Well, it's okay, actually. You know, I am fine. You know, or you're not happy today, and I'm in a great mood. Ah. Sad for you. Maybe I'll try to cheer you up a little bit.
But I'm still going to go and do my own thing.
Yeah, and I'm still going to enjoy my happiness. I'm not going to like make myself not happy so I can be in your sadness with you, you know? Yeah. But I'm going to... So it is that dance of like taking care of myself, but also caring for you without putting myself into the mud with you and being like, oh, well, you got a problem, well, I got a problem. Now we're both depressed or whatever, you know? It's like you have permission to journey your stuff without me necessarily trying to fix it. Or
I think that's a quality of like, yes, independence, but like non-enmeshment. Yes.
I just threw the last question away. Didn't feel like it. Wasn't that good. Do you have more you want to add? Is there anything in summary you'd like to add? We can talk about your work in a minute, but if there's anything else you want to throw in?
No, I just hope that this can serve as a transmission of having an open conversation about relationships. What do we mean for each other? Sometimes you're my coach, sometimes you're my bro, sometimes you're the little girl I need to comfort. Sometimes, you know, like there's different...
Sometimes I'm going to punish you for being a real bad girl.
Yeah, and like all of that can be encompassed within a relationship without taking it too seriously of it falling apart one day to the next. And actually like allowing it to fall apart has been one of the biggest gifts.
Repeatedly. Because then you get a fresh one. Like you get a fresh relationship starting the next day.
Yeah. And we come back to that, like shit comes to shove. I feel like we're just come back to like, do you still want to live with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Still think I'm hot? Yep. Okay, cool. Well, let's continue.
It's a start.
Yeah. That's all you really need. Yeah. So you got a course you're about to create?
I do want to create a course. I've been meaning to do this for quite a while, actually. Like I started dreaming of it last year, and we went through all kinds of journeys since then. So I feel like we've definitely done some solid research. I've been passionate about authentic relating, not so much open or closed or whatever the parameters. I'm not really into a lot of poly lingo, but for me, the authenticity is what comes first, of just staying honest and staying true and being able to relate, again, in any capacity, whether it's partnership, lovership, friendship, like any of our relations, for them to actually reach their full potential.
I've heard you got some important guests in this authentic relating program.
If you will.
I would love to.
Share your wisdom and exercises, and like really keeping it practical would be my preference of offering the world some just like tips on how to frame this talking, how to fucking do the emotional release and strangle your partner without physically hurting them.
Meaning not actually strangling your partner.
Exactly. Except Dane's going to do some jiu-jitsu moves.
If you really strangle your partner efficiently so they go sleep and you can get some peace. Go sleep, little girl.
How to subdue your Viking wife. Part 1.
Don't even try. Burn the house down and run. So if people want to follow you, Insta's the best channel, right?
Insta's great, definitely.
What's your Insta, Miss Moore?
Mystic Mia Mor.
Follow Mystic Mia Mor on Instagram. You'll hear about the Authentic Relating course. We'll link it in these comments as well when it's out.
I assume you're already following Dark Wizard Media if you're watching this, hearing this.
Yeah. So let's leave it here. Cool. We'll do a part 2 sometime. You know, if people have more questions, they can send them in.
This will probably cause some of that to happen.
Great.
Hopefully.
Thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen, humans and beings. Peace out.